Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, Max Barr here to preview and predict Tennessee's road trip to Georgia. The Vols coming off a loss at Mississippi State. Georgia coming off a big home win this week. You can see this game on ESPN2 11 Central Saturday. And we always do predicted lines. We don't have the line available for us as we do this, but we average BPI, Bart Torvik, and Ken Pomeroy to get a line. That says Tennessee should be about a 7-point road favorite. Those computers have Tennessee with about a 74% probability to win. Before we get into analysis, a reminder, this is brought to you by BetOnline. With NFL playoffs right around the corner and the NBA season in full swing, BetOnline has you covered with all the up-to-the-second odds, news, and scores, with additional odds, lines, trends, and info on both desktop and mobile. You can access the world's best wagering information anytime. Head there today, get in on the action, see all the updated odds. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE, that is BLEAV, to get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Max Barr. Last we saw of the Vols, they lost a heartbreaker in Starkville. Last we saw Georgia, the Bulldogs looked pretty good in Athens in knocking off Arkansas. Georgia's now won, 10 in a row, undefeated at home this year. But I'm not sure the Bulldogs have seen anything coming like the Vols.
Well, that would be one way to put it, because not many teams can replicate what this Vols team presents defensively specifically. Probably a multiple possession spread here, somewhere between maybe 5 and 7 point favorites for Tennessee, which is dangerous. We've seen what home underdogs have done so far. I think that Adu and Awaka are going to be challenged by Rick Barnes this week in practice, especially physically after they got kind of moved around, pushed around by Tolu Smith. So he's definitely going to challenge them. Tennessee got back into the game against Mississippi State by forcing turnovers. Now, Noah Thomason, the Georgia point guard, ranks 22nd nationally in turnover rate. He does not turn the ball over. Get this, actually. Over his past 10 games, during this 10-game Georgia win streak, Thomason has played a total of 250 minutes, and he's only turned the ball over 3 times. I mean, that's incredible. It might not be the gauntlet of a schedule, but I mean, you play at Florida State, you play a Georgia Tech team that was pretty tough in the moment. They were coming off some good ACC wins. Then you get Missouri and Arkansas. Only 3 turnovers. That's crazy. So I think that Georgia would be in a little bit of a better position if they do get a lead to hold it, because I do not think Thomason is going to be as sloppy as some of the Mississippi State guards were breaking the press. Looking at Tennessee here, though, they're going to need to get some of that scoring production from the guys that they added. I mean, that's why they brought him in, right? All those transfers that they brought in, it was to stop the scoring droughts. Jordan Gainey in his past 3 games is 1 of 11 from 3. Santiago Vescovi has had 4 games already this year with 2 or fewer points. He didn't have a single game like that the past 2 years combined. So there's definitely some scoring inconsistency, like Rick Barnes said in his press conference. So I think it's going to be a little bit more interesting than most think. I think people are going to say Tennessee should win here, no doubt. But Georgia does some things that are going to play well into this matchup. What are you seeing here, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of look at this from, again, it's when we see a team like Georgia playing as well as they are, they've won 10 in a row. Schedule, I know it's, like we said, I think their schedule's not been bad. It may be a little underrated in a sense. Like, they've beaten teams that I think could be potential NCAA tournament teams, just not a lot of them. And, you know, it may be just a high point or teams like that. But I mean, Wake Forest, obviously, is the one that stands out the most. That was in game 2. A little bit different since then, as we know. 2 months later, Wake Forest is, I know they just lost to Florida State, but they're still feeling pretty good about themselves on that. But it's just like, this is one of those games where it's almost like we talk about like the law of averages, right?
Yeah.
Tennessee losing 2 games in a row on the road in SEC play at Mississippi State, then losing at Georgia. This seems unthinkable, right? Remember, this is the team that, and I know we'll get some comments on this, but like this is the team we had number 1 in our power rankings this past week, like for a reason, because we thought most people, based on the votes, thought Tennessee was the best team in the SEC. And so it just seems like one of those scenarios where it's like, surely they can't lose this one. It's hard to buy into that from that perspective. But if you're looking at it from the matchup standpoint, it is really, going to come down to, I think it's, Max mentioned some of the things, like Georgia defensively can do some things here to frustrate this Tennessee team. I mean, they really can. And like we said, it's not unusual to see Tennessee go on the road and struggle offensively at times. Because if you look at kind of the sample size that we have to this point this season, really other than the Wisconsin game, I guess, I mean, we've seen that happen. So not, to the extreme necessarily in some of those games, but they scored 92 against North Carolina, obviously, but again, offensively, maybe left a little bit to be desired. In the Kansas game, I think they shot 25, 26 something, 27% from three. So just those kind of things that always pop up when you play on the road. And that's the theme here. We've talked about it. If you're going on the road, good luck, because this is what happens in SEC play. And so, this is, again, this game's a lot more intriguing than we would have thought entering the season.
Yeah.
And really, I think a lot of that comes down to the way Georgia's playing. So,
Blake, something just kind of popped up here as I'm doing some digging. Out of Tennessee's last 6 SEC road games, how many do you think the Vols have won?
I think you know the answer.
That'd be 0.
Yeah.
How much of a factor is that? No, look, my default stance on this is that Tennessee is a lot more tested than Georgia. It's a better team than Georgia. I'm trying to think, like, if you need a guy to carry you down the stretch and get a bucket, the Vols have got Connect, they've got Ziegler, they've got Josiah Jordan-James. They got a lot of dudes that played a lot of ball in this league. Georgia's got a lot of quality players. I don't know that Georgia's got a lot of great players, but I got to be honest, guys, taking a look at that and realizing that Georgia has won all 10 of its games at home this year gives me a little pause here.
Yeah, and one thing that I wanted to note was that the strength of the Georgia offense plays right into the weakness of the Tennessee defense. Georgia has the 19th highest offensive free throw rate in the country, and Tennessee's defensive free throw rate is 290th. We've seen multiple games this year where the Tennessee big guys have gotten into a bit of foul trouble that's impacted them down the stretch. We just saw it against Mississippi State. So you get a home whistle in Athens with an aggressive, downhill driving Georgia team that's going to get to the line, could pose some issues. It's just an area of the game that might play a factor in this one being a little bit closer.
Well, in fairness to Tennessee's road struggles, I guess, if you look at how some of those games played out, especially the last 3, on the road to Kentucky last year, at Texas A&M, at Auburn, those were not bad losses by any means. Now, the one at Vanderbilt, they lost at the buzzer, lost at Florida before that. So, yeah, there's something to it. That team struggled down the stretch last year, as we talked about. So, yeah, sure. Again, it just shows you the issues winning on the road in the SEC. But, again, that makes this much more of an interesting setup now for Tennessee. Now they just come off of a loss against Mississippi State. So,
all right, guys, let's make our picks. I've got some concerns about Tennessee because of on the road, but I'm going to default to where I was earlier, that the computers all have Tennessee solidly in that 6 to 7 point range. We've seen some crazy swings. First weekend was road teams paradise. Midweeks were chalk with home teams winning the whole way. So we've seen some mixed things, but I'm going to bank on talent. And let's not forget Tennessee won at Wisconsin earlier this year. I'm going Vols.
Max?
I will be not confidently going with the Vols as well. I told myself before we were doing these picks, I was like, I'm going all home teams. I don't care. I'm going all home teams. And here I am going against my own word. I think this one's gonna be close. If this is a lopsided game, I will be very surprised. But I just think since Tennessee lost this past game, if they had won, I would really be entertaining picking Georgia. But since they lost, I think the level of desperation is going to be fairly high for Tennessee, and I think they get a win here. I'm going to go Tennessee.
Tennessee has lost 6 of their last 7 in Athens, including before 2022. They had lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row in Athens. So haven't had a lot of success there recently.
I think it's going to be close.
But the Vols won 75-68 in Athens in 2022. Do you know the projected score by our friend Mr. Ken Palm for this game?
Yes, I do.
75-68, Tennessee Vols. It all connects together. Ken Palm knows. He knows all. And let's just go with a repeat score on this one, with the Vols getting the win. But I don't know, man. This one worries me a little bit. I'm just going to be honest. Just like the Mississippi State game worried me a little bit about Tennessee, this one worries me a little bit too, because I just think that we may still be under for a team that's 10 wins in a row. We may still be undervaluing what Georgia's doing right now, and just how far they have turned the corner in the right direction. This would be a statement to do that. If they win this game, which they may have already said we should have been in that category already, but they win this game, look out. The Dogs are coming for Kirby Smart's record winning streak, perhaps, in football. So
that'd be something.
Yeah.
Well, when it's over, we'll talk about it. We usually wrap up Saturday's games Sunday morning, wrap up midweek games the morning after they're played. Best way to get all that, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, tell a friend. That helps us out. For Max Barr and Blake Lovell, I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14, presented by Bet Online.